actually in the screen?
Yep, you're right in the bullseye middle. And it's recording. I don't like it.
Why?
Because you're not smiling or anything.
Well, I'm not ready to shoot yet. Okay, so here we are with the new engine oil skid. As you can see, it's pretty solid and is a lot bigger than the old one. I'm going to show you the old one taken off in a few minutes after I show you what's going on underneath the truck, which is actually the procedure for removing the old one. So we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so here we are obviously underneath the truck. This is the factory engine skid, and as you can see, it doesn't really do a whole lot. The engine oil pan is mostly covered, although there's an edge over here where the drain plug is that's exposed, and then the entire front axle casing drive unit right here is completely exposed. So you can see that if you went over a large rock and missed the plate and hit this and cracked it, yeah, you're gonna have a really bad day. So I've already taken out the two front bolts, which were up here. Now what I did was just loosen the radiator skid here. This is steel, so this thing's pretty heavy, and I'm going to see if I can avoid having to remove it entirely. I just loosened the 4 bolts that hold it in place and allowed it to tip downwards so I could get to access the 2 bolts that are holding the factory plate on, and then the 2 here in the rear. And I already pulled the one, so I'm just going to go ahead and take out the last one. Factory bolts are 12 millimeter, and these are the ones that came with the skid, so these are 13. So I had just put those in place while I was waiting for my Fumoto drain valve to arrive, which has, so that's going to be one of the projects detailed as well. So here you can see the plate. It's kind of rusty, and it's got some oil drippings on it from previous oil changes, and you see that it's stamped steel. And it's better than nothing, but not super great. All right, so here you can see the actual steel portion of the engine's oil sump. The part above it is actually aluminum. The engine's actually in 3 pieces. There is the main block, then there's a sub-assembly underneath of that, and then there's the oil pan itself, which is just stamped sheet metal. So you can see that a heavy rock hit on this would completely ruin your whole day very quickly. So that gives you a really good idea of the vulnerability that we're talking about here. So the new plate is going to take care of those vulnerabilities. So a couple of minutes here, and we'll be coming back to install the big plate. Catch you then.
You done talking?
You don't want to zoom much. Kills the resolution.
Stop talking.
Okay, so here we are back underneath again. I drained all the oil out of the engine because we're going to actually be installing this. This is a Fumoto drain valve, which no longer requires you to actually remove the plug from the engine. This little lever here, which is spring-loaded and drops into a positive detent, actually allows you to drain your oil out through here. You just take a piece of plastic hose here and just attach the tubing to the end of the nipple, and you can drain the oil out without having to mess with it. So this has O-rings already built into it from the factory. So just remember, with O-rings, whenever you're doing something, always lubricate the O-ring first. Don't ever try to install anything dry, and whatever it is that you're putting in, use that. So in other words, this has motor oil, so I took some of the oil that was drained, just ran my finger through it and lightly lubed the O-rings to get this ready for assembly. And I put a tiny bit of Permatex black here on the end, which I'm just going to have as a little bit of a thread lock. I'm just going to push that through, and that just tightens right into the oil pan in place of the original. And they recommend just to hand tighten it, which I am, until everything loose in place. After you get it situated, you take the wrench if you can find it. Okay, after you get it situated, you take your wrench, you hold the valve until it lightly touches the oil pan in the orientation that you want it to sit. So I'm going to tilt mine up at a little bit of an angle so that I'll be sure that it clears the skid plate that I'm installing. Make sure that it doesn't bang into it. And then it said 1/4 turn after that. I don't even think I'm going to get a 1/4 turn out of it. That's pretty tight. And they only recommend 15 foot-pounds. So I'm going to stop right there, because I would say that's definitely 15 foot-pounds. It does not have any idea of moving at all. So, it's going pretty well. So you can double check that orientation. And that should be good. Alright, now I'm going to check my plate and make sure that the valve does not hit anywhere on the skid plate. Oh yeah, there's a ton of clearance here. Yeah, there's absolutely no way, even if the engine rocked while it's running, that's going to be any kind of a problem.
Did you put that, or did they make that?
This access hole, no, this access hole was cut by Hefty before they shipped it. So yeah, I can't see any way that that's going to be any sort of a problem. Basically just reach in through here and click the lever when the plate is in place. There is no way that that valve could ever accidentally get hit by anything. So we're going to go ahead and finish up reinstalling
Your hand.
the plate itself, which when you're upside down is not so much fun. Any of you backyard driveway mechanics can probably appreciate how much of a pain in the neck it is to be upside down underneath your truck, tightening everything back in. And as you can see, this is quite a solid installation. They call themselves Hefty Fabworks, and I have no arguments with that name or that claim. This is definitely some hefty duty stuff. I need to get the front bolts realigned, and hopefully they do align. Find out where that hole is hiding. It's the radiator skid plate here is in the way as well, so there's a lot of pieces in play here. Wow, this is a real pain in the neck.
Do you need littler hands?
Do I need what?
Littler hands.
Oh, no. I need littler hands. Let me just. I'm gonna have to take this whole darn plate down. I think I got it. Oh, wow. Wasn't that fun? No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. Is this light helping?
Yeah. All right, so here's our final piece of the video. This is obviously my factory tow hook, which I took from the passenger side, where it used to be, right up over here. If any of you have been underneath your truck, you know where that is. But with this new bash plate, it wouldn't fit on the passenger side anymore. So I took and swung it around, so you can see how the bolts are. They're offset, so this big fat piece hanging out wouldn't fit. So I did that in the previous video. And then here's the original bash plate, the radiator, which is steel. And then we come down here and we move along, and you see what we've finally accomplished today. So a big hole there in the middle left of the frame, the frame of your view, that is, not the frame of the truck itself, is the oil access hole. And I might have been better off with a straight Fumoto valve. It's not too terrible. I can reach around the side and get above the skid plate and be able to open the drain valve and put the plastic tubing on it to catch the draining oil, which would probably be something I'll end up doing here from now on, instead of dealing with a fast food place. The last time I got it changed, I had Valvoline do it, so that may change my schedule a little bit, although I have to see in the wintertime how that's going to work out. If I don't get enough mileage, maybe I'll try to do fall and spring and not have to worry about the really terrible weather, because my garage is not heated. So anyway, moving on down here a little bit, and apologies that I'm sliding the camera at the same time that I'm moving my body here. You can see a little closer view of the oil access hole, which obviously the valve is not in view because this is an oblique angle and the valve is actually above it. And you can see, looking back all the way towards the rear there, that now with everything in place, you see well, it's pretty much, yeah, let me move the camera over a little bit. Okay, to the right side of the video frame, you can see the muffler to the left, drive shaft obviously in the middle, and on the right hand is the steel plate that came from the factory for the fuel tank, which really is not too bad unless you're really going to be doing serious rock smashing. So I didn't think that was really necessary for another $250, so I let that one go. But as you can see underneath now, from the original, which only had two tiny little pressed steel plates to keep everything safe, I've got a full underbody of aluminum armor. Right, so that concludes the video, and you can see here how everything's attached. Actually, there are supposed to be 4 bolts holding the front edge and the trailing edge of the engine skid itself, which does require some drilling. Now, the steel plate here, you can see, actually heavily overlaps the plate that I just installed, the aluminum one. So I don't see that really there's any reason that the front bolts are going to be necessary. If this was your leading edge and this was going to get smacked by rocks and there was nothing in front of it, I would definitely agree that it would be smart not to leave it that way. The front edge of this plate actually has a kick up upwards towards the engine block, so for that exact reason, so that if you do hit something, it won't take a straight on blow. It'll tend to deflect. So that's what's going on with that. And there's supposed to be 4 bolts back here in the rear as well. You can see these holes here are still empty. I'm going to deal with those at a future time and find out if my buddy can let me put the truck up on his lift and go ahead and drill those holes through and deal with the bolts at that point. So even with just these 2 in place, as you can see, it's much better, much stronger, seriously a lot thicker, and basically full coverage of the entire undercarriage. So I have no concern now with going on some trails with some stumps and other things like that sticking up that would have been very, very much more detrimental and dangerous with the transfer case and the front differential fully exposed as they were before. So I feel that this is not only a very worthwhile addition, but for anybody who's thinking about any kind of real off-roading, I would say that you're probably a little crazy if you don't. So just my opinion, but as I like to say, get your truck out there. There's a big world still waiting. You got the Wuhan going on, but you know what? The world hasn't disappeared. The trails are still out there, and they're still waiting for you to go explore them and to go find them and to go video them. So go out and have some fun. Get your truck dirty. Come back, take some pictures, and prove that you did. Because if you don't have photos, it really didn't happen. Until next time.